Hey, what's up, boxers? This is Zach Rosette with Buildbox. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a really basic 3D character using Buildbox. I'm going to show you how to make this little character here who's bugging out over that big old coin, and he's got that red mohawk. And then at the end of this video, I'm going to give you this character, and there's going to be a download link in the description below. So let's go ahead and jump into it. All right, so let's go ahead and start by opening up Buildbox 3 and selecting the default template. Okay, great. Now let's go into our 3D world. And then I want to just get rid of this orange cube in the ground here, and I want to get rid of it from our objects menu over here as well, because I just want to start off with a completely blank template here. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here to my asset library, and I'm going to bring out my own ground for this. I'm going to use a cube, and then I want the main character to be a sphere. So that's going to be the main body of the character. So I'm clicking on both of those, and I'm adding it to my library. Next, I want to change this square to be the ground. Perfect, so I've changed the name of that. And then I want to change the name of the sphere to be a main character. So I'm going to drag the sphere up here to the characters menu, and then I'm going to change the name of it to main character. Okay, perfect. And then now I'm going to drag my ground out into my scene. I'll go ahead and I'll shrink it down a little bit. And then I'm going to use the scale tool to stretch it out so that it covers a little bit of the area. Perfect. Okay, now let's go ahead and change the ground's color. So I'm going to select my color, and let's just go with something light and purple. That looks good. And next we want to give this ground some actual physics, a collision shape. So I'm going to go into the ground's node map, and I'm going to click on the start node. I'm going to go over here to the upper right hand corner and click on physics. I'm going to select that, and I'm going to check to make sure that the collision shape is a cube, so that's perfect. And I do not want gravity to affect this object type in this cube, so I want to change the object type to static. And so now when I hit play, you're going to see that the ground does not move. If I go ahead and I'm going to exit out of this preview right now, and if I change it to dynamic, you're going to see it drop from gravity. Okay, and so that's what we do not want, and so I'm going to change it to static. Okay, great. And then I'm also going to change the size of the display right now so that you can see it a little bit better. I think 50 is going to be all right. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to exit out of this preview for right now, and then let's go ahead and let's build out our character. So I'm going to go back to my 3D world, and I'm going to go into my main character here. And so let's go ahead and let's give this main character some gravity and some collision shape as well. We'll go ahead and keep it as a sphere, and we'll keep the object type as dynamic. Let's also go back into our 3D world. Let's drag our character out here for just the moment, and we'll go ahead and see what that looks like when the character falls onto the platform. Okay, so we've got our little character there. Okay, and so now I'm going to show you how to build this character out from scratch. So let's go into our actors node map, and we're going to add in a couple 3D models, and that's going to actually build out the character. Okay, so first let's go ahead and rename this 3D model because I want this to be the body of the character. So let's go ahead and just rename it body. Perfect. And then I also want this character to be the color yellow. So I'm going to go ahead and select my color here. And then I'm going to go over here to my RGB sliders, and this is how you can get, exact colors. And I'm going to put in a hex color real fast. So it's FFE023. Okay, and I'll hit enter, and then now my character is yellow. Let's go ahead and preview that so you can see what that looks like. Okay, so now we've got the yellow body of the character. All right, perfect. So let's go ahead and exit out of the preview, and so now let's go ahead and add in a mouth to the character. So I'm going to select my body, and I'm going to just hit W on my keyboard, and so this creates a duplicate of this node, and I can go ahead and just rename this mouth. Perfect. And the other thing we want to do though is we don't want the color of the mouth to be yellow. So we're going to go ahead and change the color to a darker color. So let's go ahead and change it to hex color 212121. All right, that's actually kind of a color of black that I really like. Okay, perfect. And so we also need to change the shape and the position of this mouth. We're going to go down here to position, rotation, and scale, and this is really where the magic happens. And so first, I'm going to change the position to be -0.2, and then I'll change the position in the Y to be negative 0.3, and then in the Z let's do negative 0.9, and rotation, we'll leave the rotation the way it is, but we're also going to change the scale to 0.3, 0.1 in the Y, and 0.1 in the Z. Alright, so let's go ahead and just take a quick look at what that looks like. Okay, great. So we've got our character here, and he has got a mouth, but you can't really see it because the character is turned around the wrong way in our 3D world. So I'm going to exit out of the preview real fast, go into our 3D world, select my character, and then I'm going to give them a rotation of 180. Okay, perfect. And then now let's preview. Okay, cool. So there's the start of our mouth now, and now you can see it. So I'm going to exit out of this preview, and you can always rotate the character around whenever you need to in your 3D world. But for right now, if you don't like this positioning as well, you can always just change the position so that it shows up on the front when you first turn on the camera, but you can just rotate the character in the 3D world. You have options. So let's go ahead now and add in another 3D model, and that is going to be our eyeball 1. So I'm going to hit W on my keyboard, I'm going to copy another 3D model, and then I'm going to put in eyeball. Okay, and I'll call this eyeball 1. And then I'm going to keep it as a sphere, and let's go ahead and change the color to this one to just F all the way across. Okay, perfect. And then we need to change the position on this one as well. So the position for this one is negative 0.4, and then 0.4, and then negative 9 or negative 0.95 in the Z. Okay, we'll leave rotation alone. That's the kind of nice part about the spheres, is you can sometimes get away with no rotation. And then scale, we'll just do 0.2, 0.2, 0.2 all the way across. Okay, perfect. And then the nice part about this is we can create another copy of this eyeball. We're going to use this for eyeball 2. Perfect. And then now let's go ahead and change the position. I believe it's just positive 0.4, and I think the rest is the same. I'm pretty sure. Let's go ahead and just take a quick look at what that looks like. Okay, yeah, we've got some eyeballs now. It's starting to look pretty good. And you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my camera mode here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more so it's a little bit easier to see. Hopefully it's not too big. So let's go ahead and see it now. Okay, perfect. So that's kind of a handy tool, is using this camera tool so you can see what it's going to look like in your preview. All right, perfect. So let's go ahead now, go back into our actor, and let's add in some pupils. So I'm going to select my eyeball, and I'm going to hit W on my keyboard, and I'm going to rename this pupil 1. Perfect. Let's go ahead and move it over here so it looks nice and neat. And then we'll change the color to this. We'll change it to 212121. Again, it's one of my favorites. And then let's go ahead and change the position on this one as well. So this is going to be negative 0.4, and then also it's going to stay 0.4, and then negative 1.1 on this one. Okay, we'll keep the rotation the same, and we'll do a smaller scale, and then there we go. Okay, perfect. Same thing here. We're going to hit D on my keyboard, and then I'm going to change the position to, I think all you have to do is do positive 0.4 here. Okay, perfect. Yeah, I think that looks good. Let's go ahead and preview this real fast. Awesome. Okay, cool. So we've got this yellow character, we've got some bugged out eyes, and a little bit of a mouth, kind of a screaming mouth. So I'm going to exit out of this preview now, and let's go ahead and add in some hair spikes to give this character a little bit of hair. And you can do whatever you want with this character. You can completely change this character around. You can make your own characters this way. It's the exact same way. You simply just add shapes, colors, and positions, and you can rotate them around. So let's go ahead and call this hair spike 1. Perfect. And it's a lot more convenient to do it this way. You can also get OBJ files and use textures. That'll work as well. But For this, we're going to go ahead and I'm just showing you how to do it within Buildbox. There's ways to do it within Buildbox as well. So what I'm doing right now is I'm changing the collision shape in the mesh for this hair spike to be a cone so that it looks like a little spike. So you just go over here to this edit and then you just choose from the different meshes and you can change the collision shape. And so we also, now that we've changed the collision shape, we need to change the color. So the color for this is FC2937. That's the hex color. All right, perfect. And then let's go ahead, I'm gonna scroll up just a little bit. Let's go ahead and set the position to this guy. We're gonna set it to 0 and then 1.2 and -0.6. Now the way I figured this out was a bunch of trial and error. You just test out numbers and then preview it and see if you nail it or not, and then make little changes if you need to. So that's how I'm getting these numbers. So the scale is 0.5 in the X, 0.7 in the Y, and 0.5 in the Z. And then there's a rotation in the X direction of -30. Okay, perfect. So let's go ahead and keep that. Let's go ahead and preview that, make sure that's looking good. Okay, cool. So we've got a front spike. That's a little bit of a crazy front spike, but I'm gonna go ahead and just leave it for right now. You'll see later. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit W on my keyboard. Let's call it hair spike 2. And then I'm going to change the position on this guy to 1.4. And then let's go ahead and do 0.5 on this. Rotation of, or actually it's 1.4, but the rotation here is -1.2, or the position in the Z direction is -0.2. And then let's just do a rotation of -10, so a little bit of a smaller rotation. And then let's keep the dimensions. So let's go ahead and see what that looks like. Okay, awesome. We got that second spike there, and I'll turn it to the side later and you'll be able to see it. Okay, perfect. And you know what? Actually, now let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and see the spike starting to form so that you can see what is happening here. Okay, perfect. So it should look like that in the preview. Okay, great. So I'm going to exit out of the preview, go back to the actor, and let's do spike 3, 4, and 5. So this is 3, this is 4, and this is 5. Perfect. Okay, let's go ahead and fix up 3 now. So 3 is 1.4 and then 0.5 in the Z direction position. The rotation is 15 degrees. And then the same scale, same color, everything. Hair spike 4. Let's go ahead and change the position to 0 and then 1.1 and 1.1 actually. And then rotation of 45. Perfect. And keep the scale. And then lastly, change the position on this guy to 0 and then 0.4, I believe, and then 1.1, and then the rotation on this is 105, a little bit further back. Okay, cool, and this should do it. We should have a pretty awesome character here. And so we can see the character in our scene here. And you can see the eyes are a little bit, you know, bulgy, but you can go ahead and move those and the pupils if you like. Same thing with the mouth. You can take the mouth in a little bit and move the spikes around. But there you go. We've got our main character, and I'm going to give you this character to use in your scenes. And when you drop in the character, it's going to be facing the other direction. So normally when you drop this character in, it's going to be facing this way. Okay, just so you know, because I was making a game where the character is facing this direction. It's actually running towards you. So I was playing around with that idea. So anyways, I hope you thought this video was useful, and I hope you enjoyed this character and come up with some cool games to use this character in. And I hope that you create your own characters and share them with the rest of the boxing community. As always, keep on boxing, boxers.